Hello and welcome to the Live Rally Game Podcast. My name is Steven, and it is time to begin all the Reelfoot deep dive interviews. And to kick us off and define the season of Reelfoot Season 12, the Decennium, we have Debbie. Debbie, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I'm finally well rested. I look like a normal human again. I got my buff, and yeah, I'm back from Reelfoot. It's been about a little over a week now. So yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I was about to ask, how has the post game been treating you?
Yeah, so okay, so I was in the game for 5 days, 4 nights. So even though I was out early as an early boot, I technically was in the game sleeping because I was in the redemption camp, sleeping there doing challenges as long as everyone else from the pre-jury was that didn't make it after the battle back. So I technically was out there for like half the game, right? So I was full of bug bites. One thing which we'll go over, not to jump ahead, but we did this really cool superlative quiz in redemption camp that Frank created, and one of the questions was who would turn into a superhero from having the most bug bites, and it was me. So my point is, I was covered in bug bites. My feet were swollen like everywhere. Bug bites. I got allergic reaction to bug bites. So my point is, so out of the game, so got to rest a little in the house and refresh and just bond and hang out with people. But yeah, after the game, came home, rested. So feel refreshed, but I still am a little run down, and recovering from all those itchy bug bites and everything.
Yeah. So I guess out of pure curiosity, what was the food situation at Redemption? Because I know in the in-game, you don't have a lot of food. I imagine it was something equivalent at Redemption.
Well, Frank was an amazing handler at Redemption. He really taught me so much, and I'll get into that. But, so in terms of and I'll get into the sleeping arrangements as well, but he built us, our bed. It was kind of like the Four Seasons Barbie dream house of camp.
I would say I was pretty impressed looking at your camp. I'm like, I think this is the nicest camp I've seen in a Reelfoot game, and Frank being in charge of Redemption makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So regarding the food, so when we get there, I believe it was Pete hands me a granola bar, and I'm like, I look at this right away. I'm like, it has wheat in it. I can't eat it because I'm gluten-free, right? So Pete says to me, well, give it to the next person that comes in Redemption. Like 3 hours later, I'm like, oh, geez. So I'm just going to like I am in the game, be hungry till then. And he was like, well, Liz was allergic to everything on Survivor. She couldn't eat. So I guess you can eat. I'm like, well, I guess I'll find some plants to eat, right? But I was like, oh, well, can I maybe get like a yogurt or cheese? And I was explaining to him, he was like, well, this is gluten-free. I'm like, no, it's got nuts in it. Like I could lick the nuts or the frosting off, but there's no, I can't eat it because there's wheat in it. So I negotiated to get a yogurt. So I did have a yogurt. I did save the granola bar for Joe when she came as a nice gesture, which we'll get into my bond with Joe as well. Mm-hmm. So we had a snack when we got there. The pot was too dirty to make rice, even though Joe said and we did eventually, but because it was at first, we got in place of rice, we got some fruit and nuts. The snacks were actually nice, I have to say, in Redemption. We were fueled. We were resting and fueled, whoever came in that battle back, which is interesting because Maddie, who won, really didn't have to, get fueled in the battle back. But yeah, it was camping, bonding. I mean, we still were definitely doing competitions and challenges, which I'll get into. I was by myself for, I don't know, 3 hours maybe. But it definitely was there was no question of me taking the opportunity to go to Redemption camp. Everyone who questioned me, there was no question. I was doing it regardless. I was just scared to be by myself. And people that know me before the game and got to know me in the game, and maybe part of the reason I got voted out is because I'm not someone that goes camping. I go glamping. So like me by myself, I mean, I fell asleep because I was just tired and upset. And while Frank built the shelter, which I shouldn't have, but my point is that yeah, I was just scared by myself at first. But the food was better than in camp.
Well, so I'm going to roll us back in time a bit. Talk to me about how you got into Survivor and how you discovered Reelfoot.
How I got into Survivor in general?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I am a huge super fan of Survivor and Big Brother, of the reality TV shows. You know, I just played Big Brother Chicago 3.5 weeks before Reelfoot. But rewinding back, like I'm a huge super fan. I've applied to Survivor. I've applied to Big Brother so many years, like went in person. 13 years ago, you know, after my kids have been applying to Big Brother, but both Big Brother and Survivor, like I'm a super fan. I mean, talking about Survivor, I'm a super fan of the show. So I've been into it for a long time. And actually, I'm going to give, even though we're talking about Reelfoot, I'm going to give a shout out to the reason that I got into orgs and LRGs is for Vanquish. Kristen found me as a super fan of the show. I followed all these survivors on Instagram, and the person who runs one of the big orgs in the org community called Vanquish found me, and it all came to life from there. My obsession with orgs and LRGs. So I've been watching the show for, gosh, probably since I like graduated college, like 20 years now. And how I found Reelfoot. So I've been in the org community for about 1.5 years now and started playing LRGs. My first LRG was competitive events, which was last summer. So newer-ish to LRGs, but with you know, the community, since I've been playing and I've played orgs, you know, I know Reelfoot was like the biggest, if not one of the biggest LRGs compared to Survivor. Like if you're not going to be on the show, Reelfoot's like the longest, and you know what I've heard and been told of like the biggest and the best one to do. So I applied to Reelfoot because I was like, hey, if I can't get on the real show, I want to be on Reelfoot. So that's how I discovered it, and then got the interview and got casted early in December, actually, while I was at Hearts of Reality. I found out. Yeah.
So you apply to Reelfoot, you get cast. What does your preparation and lead up to the season look like?
Yeah. So, okay. So I had tons of time to prepare. Should have spent that time preparing to make fire, but because I just did my LRG in May and I was busy, you know, and then I procrastinated last minute a month before, which should have practiced the whole time before. But what I did another thing that inspired me to kind of like tell my story and push myself with going on to Reelfoot, besides being a Survivor super fan. If you guys watched Reelfoot, you know, I did, you know, you might have noticed that I did mention that I am a Lyme disease survivor, and I got bitten by a tick about 10 years ago now. And so one of my fears has always been like bugs and mosquitoes, and especially ticks, the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, freaking put me in a tent to sleep, like mosquitoes, no problem. But you know, this definitely helped me get out over that fear. And so in terms of preparing, so, you know, I didn't do camping and whatnot, which I should have, but I kind of was just like, okay, I need to bring my bug spray and my sunscreen. Probably drove Rod crazy with like what I can bring with that, because they all knew I'm like, I have to bring my tick tweezers. Like they were like, you're going to see ticks, you know? I'm like, okay. But in terms of really preparing my body and preparing for the show. So, you know, since that happened, there was a time where I was really sick, and during COVID, I'm like, I need to push myself to like, you know, I've always been a small, petite woman, but I'm like, I need to get back in shape and like be strong and build muscle. And so I've been doing, my shirt says bar lover, but I've been doing bar classes for like the past over 2 years. And so I was already doing it like 5 times a week. So when I heard in December I got in, I was like, I need to really push myself and do not just like my typical gym classes, but more weightlifting, like learning how to really like build muscle and like my goal was like my arm muscle, but also my core. So how I prepared was going to the gym 5 or 6 times a week, building muscle, doing all those planks, and building my endurance up, which didn't really get to compete that much in that, but building my endurance, being able to do those long endurance and balancing type of challenges. So I trained myself. I also, tried to eat a little healthier and trained myself physically. I tried to train myself and, get prepared that way.
Coming in the game, did you have a strategy in mind that or were there things you were looking to do once you hit the ground?
Yeah. So, as you know, not to talk about it too much, but I just played Big Brother Chicago 3.5 weeks before this. Got all the way to the final 2, didn't win. So kind of had to think of like shifting my strategy, like what can I do different, which went from final 2 to first out. But I can laugh about it now. But I've always played. So I like to say I've got the hero on one shoulder and the villain on the other. You never know what you're gonna get with me, right? But I used to really play as a hero, sometimes a little chaotic. And so my game in Big Brother, I played major villain. So coming in, I'm like, I kind of want to play a hero, but my strategy was, which didn't really work out for me, but was kind of trying to do that. But my strategy was, since I am small, I knew I was going to be the smallest female, the smallest person. I'm petite. I'm, not even 5 feet tall. So, my strategy was, okay, I know I'm not going to be that comp beast at challenges. Like I'm going to shine if I'm later in the game, but at first I'm probably not going to be like tribe strength. So wanted to make sure, like I always play that social card as a social butterfly and strategic. So I wanted to pair myself with a strong guy that I knew could be a challenge beast, and hoping to get myself into an alliance and just play the social card. Didn't really work out for me, but also wanted to be strategic and like figure out who the duos were and try and break them apart as well.
So you arrive at Reelfoot, you hit the ground. From what I can tell, players got there a little bit before the game formally began. Was there anyone you saw that you recognized on arrival?
I get there, and who do I see sitting on the porch right next to me, giving me a smirk? I'm like, uh-oh, it's German. So love German. We just played Big Brother Chicago together 3.5 weeks before Reelfoot. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is he going to be mad at me? Are we going to be on the same tribe? Like, let's work together this time. So was happy to see him, but was also a little scared that he was still going to be mad at me. I also, like in the car, I noticed Kiri sat next to me, and I've played one of Michael O'Rear's minis with her before. So I did notice her. Like I noticed her right away. Very distinct looks with like the lip rings and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's gotta be Kiri. I know she's from Canada. So, and she was on my tribe, and like, when we talked on the tribe, like I figured, I'm like, it looks exactly like her. So, I also noticed Melissa, who I know from Vanquish, who I'm friends with, and I was like, oh, that's great. Melissa's here. I hope she's on my tribe. Really, really wanted to work with her. And I noticed who came in late and gave me a big smile, and I noticed him right away. I wanted to work with him, was Danny. Danny Jackson. I've played one of O'Rear's minis with him too, and love him. And then I also noticed Tony, because we have mutual friends, played an org together briefly. So yeah, those were the people that I knew of and noticed.
So is there anything you want to talk about before we talk about kind of the breakdown of your original tribe?
I mean, so I knew 4 people on that other tribe, right? But like in terms of people I had met, and like really had like 2, I would say, good connections on the other tribe of people I've met, 3 like obvious connections. So all in all, I knew 4 people on the other tribe. On mine, I knew of Kiri a little bit, so kind of knew one. So I was like hoping that I would be with the people I knew that I figured would have my back, but it didn't work that way. But yeah, I also noticed like everyone was super friendly. I noticed actually like Jeff and Maddie came together a little late. I noticed them. Like I got a good vibe from them. I think I was talking to Ethan a little on the porch, and like I noticed his accent. I'm like, where is he from? I think he said France as a joke. I'm like, there's no way he's French and from France. He's like, you'll find out. And then I noticed Joe, you know, she was talking about having 6 kids. I'm like, okay, she's a mom. So yeah, I mean, obviously I noticed Shauna because me and my big mouth, I don't know if it was the right thing to do, but I told everyone it was my birthday on June 9th on Sunday. So she's like, oh, it's my birthday too. So we wound up being on the same tribe. Oh, I also noticed Hannah because we talked about her eyelashes that I loved. So yeah, I mean, everyone was very friendly, you know, right before the game.
So the game begins and you are put on the pink tribe, the non-Kana tribe. And I'm going to kind of walk through the players in the tribe and just let me know what your first impressions were. The people are like, you know, this is someone I thought I think I wanted to work with initially.
Okay.
So alphabetically, let's start with Blake.
Seemed really cool, like really liked his vibe, energetic, really wanted to work with him. Yeah.
What about Carl?
Carl I liked too. Like I had no clue. Like I know his son, I've played with Fred before, but I had no clue who he was at first. But Carl I liked. Like I liked his energy. He was really outspoken and extrovert like me. So yeah, I liked Carl.
What about Jeff?
So Jeff was someone I noticed first. And I actually really got along well with him. So I actually really wanted to work with Jeff.
Jordan?
Jordan was in my car. She was sitting in the front. Didn't really talk much. Well, obviously, we couldn't really talk in the car. Seemed a little quiet, but I definitely wanted to get to know her.
Carrie, we already talked a bit about Carrie.
Yeah.
Did you did you kind of try to leverage that initial connection, or did she recognize you back?
Oh, we definitely recognized each other. Yeah, I thought that she would want to work with me. I definitely tried to leverage that connection. And I was excited that we were on the same tribe because at first we were like, oh, there's no way we're going to be on the same tribe. But I was excited to be on the tribe with her. Yeah.
Now, we not only had one player from France, we had 2 players from France. So we also had Maddie P.
But not France.
Australia, yes.
yes. Tried to tell me it was a French accent. Maddie P. So Maddie P was the one that I noticed that walked in with Jeff, and I really liked his vibe. I'm like, this guy seems really cool and intriguing. Yeah.
You have Sandra on your tribe too.
Yeah, Sandra. You know, we didn't talk as much at first, but I was like, oh, another like petite female. You know, like kind of like similar, like. I don't want to say older, but like similar, like a lot of people were younger than us, like mom or, so yeah, kind of was like, okay, cool. Like she's from Boston, like another similar, like mom type of female. Yeah.
We talked a bit about Shauna already.
Yeah. Yeah. She was a little bit more quiet about her birthday, but yeah, I thought she was really sweet. And I was like, okay, like maybe we'll both be on the same tribe.
And finally, James.
So James, I really, I definitely wanted to get to know him. Liked his vibe as well. He didn't talk as much. Like he was wearing like the Michigan shirt, was a little quieter, but like definitely was interested to get to know him. So yeah, I mean, there was no one I got a bad vibe from at first.
Now, we've talked a little offline about this, and you kind of mentioned here, you wish you had been on the other tribe, from what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think I would have done a lot better if I was on the other tribe. Yes.
And so who would you, if you had to swap you with one other person in another tribe, who would it be? If you could take one of their positions, they have to go to your non-Kana tribe.
Ooh. Oh gosh. Who would I have swapped? I guess I'm just gonna say Joe, only because Joe and I kind of talked at Redemption how we both kind of wish we were like not wish, but yeah, I mean kind of wish like we were like maybe I thought I would have done better on the other tribe, and she's like, you know what, I think I would have done better on your tribe. So Joe, and we were both first out from our own tribes. So
you have to stay on non-Kana, but you can swap one other person with someone from the Okina tribe. So who would you give up from your tribe, and who would you take to put on your tribe?
So wait, so if I were able to be on green,
you're staying on pink.
Okay.
But you're going to swap one person from pink to green and bring someone from green to pink.
Oh, I guess I would put Um, okay, I think I would put hi Blake. you're listening. I guess I would put, okay, I'll tell you why I'm going to do this. I think I would put Sandra on the other tribe, and I would swap definitely Melissa to my tribe.
Okay, how come?
Okay, so I thought Sandra and Jeff were super close when I was trying to get in with Jeff, and I thought they were a duo the whole time. And I even said to Maddie, I'm like, I think they're going to be dangerous. And I knew they knew each other. I could just tell because Sandra, I wasn't going to say James Blake, don't worry. Sandra was a threat the whole time because like when we were talking about like what people are good at the first, I think it was my idea. I'm like, let's talk about our strengths. And Sandra right away says, Jeff's a good runner. And I said to someone, I think it was Maddie, it might have even been Blake. I said, how does Sandra know Jeff's a good runner? She has to know him. And I saw them talking. They're both from Boston. They said they played 2 different games, but I'm like, they had to have both played out last. They definitely know each other. I knew it. And I thought, even though people were pairing James and Blake, Sandra and Jeff to me were like an obvious duo. And I was trying to get in to work with Jeff. And so that's why. And obviously Sandra was a threat. She got to final 3. And Melissa, I just wanted to work with right away. Like, know her from Vanquish. Like, I thought it would have been iconic with 2 Vanquish girlies going far in the game. So yeah, I mean, she did amazing. I thought she would have been an amazing ally as well.
Talking about your philosophy of idols and advantages, how important are they to you in your game, and how focused were you on them coming in the Reelfoot?
I mean, idols and advantages are huge, right? I should have tried to dig when Carl dug in the dirt. I didn't want to get so dirty. I'm like, he's already digging. Jeff's digging. I didn't realize it was going to be so quick. But yes, I think idols are very important, even advantages. I wanted to go to the outpost. No one ever chose me. I was hoping maybe some of the people like Melissa that I knew over there would choose me. But I think advantages are huge. Obviously, I got like a few coins that I had on redemption. I got one of the coins at that the challenge where you had to open the numbers and then go to put the thing up on the holes on the wall, the reward challenge, but I was, slow to get it. But yeah, I mean, I would have loved to. I saw Kiri, got that the hint, the clue in the French fries. I mean, yeah, I would have loved to have an idol. It would have been perfect. And that's why I was debating using my shot in the dark, which is my regret. But I think the advantages are huge, especially when you know your name's on the chopping block. Like if I would have had an idol, it would have been a totally different ball game.
So let's talk about some of the twists of the season. The first one is redemption. Correct me if I'm wrong, all players knew that redemption was in play?
Yes.
Okay.
We were told, I think night 1. Yeah.
And how was that something you were concerned about, or just like, we'll deal with it when we get there?
I mean, I was happy that we had redemption because I
more nights with bugs and ticks, right?
What?
More nights with bugs and ticks.
Well, but that was my goal of staying there to be there. I didn't come to play to just sit in the cabin and hang out with people. I mean, that was great, but my goal was to play the game. In terms of redemption, when they told us we want everyone to have that experience, like I was like, please don't vote me out on my birthday. And they were like, no one's going home on Sunday on day 2. It's going to be Monday morning.
We'll vote you after your birthday. Don't worry.
Yeah. So even though it was the next morning, I was happy we had redemption because we had that experience. Like, I didn't come all the way out there just to go get out and be in the house as much as I would have liked the comfy cabin. Like we all gave up a lot to fly there or go there, like left our families. And so I think redemption was amazing because I didn't just feel like I was out first and then that's it. I have to be like, my game's over. Like my game still continued and I was still part of the show. So I thought redemption was a really amazing way to add to the experience for everyone. Obviously, I didn't want to go there and I didn't want to be first, but I was glad that we had that option.
You also know that fire tokens are in play. And I believe everyone starts off with 1 fire token. Did you have any thoughts or notions of what you want to do with the fire tokens, how open you wanted to be with those with other players?
So I'm pretty sure that I said to Maddie, I might have said to him like the first night, I might have said like, oh, maybe we should all like share our fire tokens. And I think he was like, oh, maybe a good idea. But then I kind of just held on to it. And every time someone went to the outpost, we gave them the fire token. So like when James and Sandra went, I gave them mine. When Blake went, I gave them mine. So like I kept giving them away. That I think I maybe had like, I don't even know if I had any at redemption. I might have had like one left. But yeah, we all like shared them for like the extra rice or whatever it was at redemption, especially because it was raining and thunderstorming.
We'll get into that for sure.
Yeah.
And finally, I guess we'll talk about the outposts as well, because that will factor once we start talking about reward challenges. So you get in your tribe, you go to your camp. Talk about those initial hours of the game.
Yeah. So when I first got to camp, okay, so when we first go into the game, it's raining. We're all bundled up in our raincoats. Like I had my pink raincoat that I don't even know if it made it home because it was filthy on the floor and soaked. I had a pink poncho, like bright pink for the tribe. We were all wearing like our rain boots and hats. Like we came into the game raining. So it was already muddy and sloshy. And, I knew rain would be a factor, but it was like really, really wet. So, I think the first few hours I took off my raincoat and hat. They already went on the muddy floor. I'm like, it's all dirty, like Survivor looking, and I was wearing my hoodie, but I think the first few hours it was fine. But within the first night, my sweatshirt was no, I think I wore my sweatshirt the first night, but by the second day, my sweatshirt was soaked. Like everything was soaked. We were hanging it on the trees. So yeah, when we get there, it was raining. I think it might've stopped for a little. And like, people were making fire and collecting sticks. And I was trying to collect sticks and talk to people around camp and try and feel people out. But yeah, I mean, we were soaked for challenges, like right from the start.
Was there anyone in particular that you were trying to have conversations with that early on, or just everyone?
I mean, everyone, but specifically, I remember I was definitely trying to have more conversations with Maddie, especially, and Jeff. And I remember like talking to Maddie, like, let's go collect sticks. And I was like, we need an alliance. And then I was talking to Jeff, and like, I think like me talking to Jeff a lot at first, and we talked about like things we had in common, and then it kind of sizzled out. So I could tell like he was trying to work with other people, and maybe my name was out there, and I was like, he's kind of being a little standoffish after a while. But and then I was also, I was talking to Jordan, Shauna, Blake. I was trying to work with Blake and James. I didn't realize people had already formed alliances right away. I think I was talking to Carrie, Carl. I was trying to talk to everyone, but I think it was really more so Maddie and a little Jeff. Yeah.
So you're the first person I've talked to at all this season. So it always is interesting looking at how fast is the game being played. Some tribes, the game is slow, right? Because you have a good 48 hours before your potential for tribal council. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's really fast. How fast paced were things moving on the non-Kana tribe in terms of strategy?
I didn't think it was moving that fast because I was like, I remember night one, I had a conversation with Blake where I'm like, let's walk to Tree Mill together and kind of try and look for an idol. And we walked, and I was like, I'd love to work with you and James. Meanwhile, I didn't even know he already had an alliance. He's like, oh yeah. And then someone else mentioned to me like, oh, we need to get like a 6 or 7. You're in the 6 or 7. And then like someone mentioned it to Jordan, and it was like, I don't remember, me, Maddie, Jeff, Shauna, Sandra, I don't know. It was someone like Maddie that mentioned it to me, and like, but no one ever talked together. So I was kind of like, well, so I was trying to talk strategy. Like I know Carrie said at the end that it seemed like I was kind of what's the word, distracted, and maybe I was so much by like the camp the camp elements, like helping at camp and the bugs and the rain, and not just like focused on the game. But yeah, I mean, I thought I was trying to be strategic. Like I said, I noticed that I thought Sandra and Jeff were really close. I did notice right away, like James and Blake were really close as a duo. So I was trying to be strategic, but like I was trying to form alliances, but I wasn't being too aggressive because I didn't want to, I didn't want to play too strong, too fast.
So that first day, you have your opening reward challenge, Quest for Fire. No footage is out yet. We'll see when the episode's aired. How was that challenge for you?
Oh, the fire one. Oh, it didn't air yet. Okay. So I was working with Jordan. So I think some people were a little confused, like with the questions during, and I was confused too. So like I thought for some reason, like I think Shauna was making fire that like that Shauna puts the ball in the fire. I didn't realize we had to roll it into the fire. So Jordan's like, come on, Debbie, let's roll the ball into the fire. Like when I went with Jordan, like we each went in teams with the stick. So I think she went backwards. I went frontwards. It was hard with the fire. I was definitely scared of the fire and the gasoline. So I think she definitely did more of the heavy lifting, like went a little faster than me, but I still don't think like I was the reason that our team got slowed down. I think like Jeff did a great job with running. We did a great job with the puzzle, but that other team, I think it was Trinica and I forgot who else. They just flew through that puzzle. So that's what it was. But yeah, that one was hard. I was just like nervous with the fire on the ball. Yeah.
Well, it's been kind of, it started, I got the sense that, well, no, one other thing. So after the reward challenge, you have the first outpost visit. And so from your tribe, Blake and Carl, I believe, both go. It sounds like you gave them the fire tokens. What happened when they returned? What did they tell you all?
They got us, did they get the extra rice? Yes, they got us. Wait, did they get the extra rice?
Yes.
Yes, they got us extra rice. So they told us when they returned that they got us extra rice. They bought the coins for the extra rice and they had enough for that. I don't think they might have had a few left over that they had in the pot that we shared, but I'm not sure. I think it was just the extra rice. And then we actually made some of the rice that they bought that first day and like saved the rest. Because the other team got the tarp. So they got the tarp in the rain, which we wanted, but we weren't able to negotiate it.
Who held on to the extra fire tokens, or where were those stored during the day?
It was Carl and Blake that went. You know, it must have been one of them. Or we might not have even had any left over. I mean, I saw Blake's watching. Blake, do you remember? It either was one of them or we might not have had any left over, but it definitely wasn't me. I think it was one of them that held on to it.
So by the end of that first day, and before we talk about the night and the storm and everything, end of first day, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. Like I'm trying to vibe with everyone. Like, I'm feeling okay. I'm just like definitely like the rain is out of my element. I'm, the fire is a little warm, but like sleeping was freezing inside the tarp. So, it was hard for me to sleep on the ground. Like I could barely sleep. I stood up a lot near the fire and then maybe got like 2 hours of just shut eye, and tried to rest, but I don't really think I slept. We all just tried to squeeze in next to each other. But I mean, I was tired. But yeah, I was feeling good. Like about, we were all just like kumbaya at that point and just ready to win a reward challenge.
So that night you have a pretty large lightning storm that rolls through. I can't remember if it's your tribe or the other tribe that has the lightning strike.
It was our tribe. Yes.
Talk me about that.
Oh my God. Okay. So it's really, really bad. Like we barely have a tarp. Like we're shivering. That's when like my hoodie was soaked. We're all like, oh my God, we're on the walkie-talkie. We're like, this is really bad. We don't know if it's dangerous to be here. All of a sudden, the lightning is coming and coming. I'm looking down. I can't look up. I'm like, please don't die on my birthday. Please don't die and not be able to be a mom for my kids on my birthday. And I remember Shauna was thinking the same thing, like, need to come home to my kid. I wasn't looking up. Everyone was looking at the lightning. I was scared to look. All of a sudden, boom, it sounds like the biggest gunshot I've ever heard in my life, and lightning strikes a tree. I am frightened. I'm looking down. People are staring at it. They're like, holy shit, that tree just went red on fire. Lightning just struck the tree. I was shaking, shivering. I was so scared I couldn't look. I'm like, oh my God, don't die. So lightning struck the tree, busted in half. I didn't look. It was red. That's when we're like, shoot, we're calling in for emergency evacuation on the walkie-talkie. I believe it was Shauna that called producers and were like, I think this is unsafe. Lightning just struck a tree. Oh, and then the other tribe, we thought it was Joe, was like, well, if they get to go back, we should too, or maybe they didn't believe us. We're like, lightning really struck a tree. We're not making that up. Like, we are dead serious. So we were all scared. We were shook. Like, me, who's never gone camping, was scared for my life. I was just kind of in shock, shaking, but I knew we were all together and I wasn't alone. But that lightning that struck a tree was like 5 feet away from us. It could have struck the tarp. It could have struck us. So that was intense. So we called on the walkie-talkie. Production was like, we're going to get you back to camp. So we were debating staying there or if it's safer to walk back in the dark, in the lightning that we could have gotten struck in, so to camp. Now, we only had 1 or 2 flashlights. So then we were like, are we all going to stay or are we all going to go? And we're like, we're just all going to go together. So most of us left our backpacks, except for like Jeff, who was smart. Most of our backpacks like had damp clothes in it the next day, but he probably had dry. So we just left most of our stuff because we're like, when something happens like that at home, you get your person out and you leave everything there. So we just like brought the flashlights. It was so dark. I think I was second and Jordan was first. I was holding Jordan's hand for dear life, following her as she's holding this small little flashlight, barely can see the light. I'm like, Jordan, shine the light. It's so dark. I'm holding onto her hand for dear life. And we're all holding hands in a line, following each other because this lightning could have struck us while we were walking. It was so dark. We were scared. I remember my raincoat, my poncho was already soaked. So at that point, I just wore my sweatshirt hoodie, which was stupid, but the raincoat was already soaked, like filthy on the ground. My hat was like filthy on the ground. So I'm like, I'm just going to wear my hoodie, like whatever, we're just going to go. So wore my hoodie and my boots. Like that's all I had. Finally, producers meet us like halfway. We get in the back of their pickup truck and like, we're like, thank God. And then we get to the cabin as an emergency evacuation where half of the other tribe went, half stayed, but we all went. And we were told we can sleep on the hardwood floor with the awning outside of the porch of the cabin, which, you know, like who knows what termites and Dusty was there, but like we were just happy to be covered. So that actually the floor was harder than the ground at our camp was.
I imagine.
Yeah. So we get there. I'm already drenched. My sweatshirt is soaked. I'm shivering in my tank top. Maddie's so nice enough to give me his long sleeve button down shirt. So I have his warm shirt. Then I'm like, crap, what am I going to sleep on? Because I left my bag there. Jeff has his bag all comfy. I'm like jealous. Like Shauna has her jacket. Matt gave me his shoe. He's like, use my shoe as a pillow. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is hard. I don't know what kind of bugs and ticks are here. I don't even have a hood for my hair. I'm like, okay. So I sleep next to Maddie. I start using his shoe as a pillow. And I'm like, thank you, Maddie. But this is so hard. He's like, oh no, it's soft. Use it. Like he was so nice. I'm like, I'm just going to sleep like on the ground flat. I really couldn't sleep. I just got shut eye. So I remember Carl brought his cigarettes. But yeah, I just slept on the ground. Freeze. I mean, I had the long sleeve shirt, thank God. But yeah, all of our stuff was drenched. We were just happy to be covered. But like I said, I really didn't sleep. And yeah, that was a night to remember. That was a really scary night. But we all kind of like just went together, bonded, and we're happy to be safe. And then once daylight hit, we went back. So
it's day 2. You haven't gotten much of sleep. You know, what is your game plan for the day looking like?
Yeah, I was exhausted. My game plan is just like, we need to win. I need to not be the weak link. And like, we just need to win challenges. And I believe that was the day that we had the challenge where we lost, where I think like you had to go up to get the ball in the holes and run back to get the fire tokens from the numbers. So yeah, my goal was like, let's just win this next reward challenge.
Yeah, so in the next challenge, you have a vertical table maze you're working through. And spoiler alert, your tribe does not win this reward challenge either.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like we tried hard. Like I was so happy. So like when Maddie got in and I'm like, yeah, Maddie, I'm so proud of you. I was like, okay, we're going to win. Like I was so happy. And then I'm like, wah, wah, wah. They catch up. Because like at first we were winning, I think. There were a few times where like Sandra almost got it in, like people were doing well. I think like Shauna almost got it in. Like I thought Jeff was going to get it in. I think everyone was like having a decent run and then the ball went bananas. So yeah, I mean, Melissa just killed it. There were, I forgot who else, like Trinity, whoever else from their tribe just like killed it. So yeah, we lost. We were like, all right, we just need to win the next challenge. And I remember like back at camp, like Carl was like, trying to chop wood, build shelter. Like Carl was like pumping us all up. Like we need to win. And we're like, yes, we just all really need to win.
So following that challenge, you have your next outpost visit, and James and Sandra go for your tribe. Talk about the return and what happened.
Yeah, so James and Sandra go, and that's when they shared with everyone that they got the immunity idol clue to the idol in our camp.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that is when they said they saved some tokens. They got the clue. I forgot what else they brought back with them. Was it something else? Do you know?
I just have my notes that they came back with an idol clue.
Yeah, I think that was it. Okay, and they saved some tokens that they said they were holding on to share from the tribe. So I didn't push and ask for my tokens back. I was like, I'll be a team player. You guys share them. So they read the clue to everyone. They were like, James was like, I want to be honest. I'm going to read the clue. As soon as I read the clue, Carl books it and starts digging in the mud. He knows exactly where it is under that tribe flag. He goes in the mud. Jeff goes in the mud. I'm like, I want to try, but these two guys are already going for it. And all of a sudden, Carl whips out the idol. So he gets it. Yeah. And he tells everyone, I got the idol, and everyone knew.
Well, Carl also talks about hey, this is a tribe idol. I'll use it for other players. When you hear a player saying that, do you believe them?
No. I mean, there's no way he could have used it for the whole tribe. If we lost, someone was going home. And at Merge, there's no way that he was going to use. I mean, he could have used it for his allies, but like that was his idol, I think he wanted to believe that, but no.
Were there other things out there to be found searching like fire tokens?
I believe there were, because there were at Redemption Camp and they were hiding them. I just didn't realize it. I'm sure other people found advantages and stuff.
Did Carl having the idol factor into your plans or change anything about your game?
Other than like we knew he couldn't get out first because everyone thought he was a threat, but I know everyone also knew we needed him because he was building the shelter and the fire and chopping wood and doing all the work. So I don't really think so per se. I think people were talking about I think my name and James' name were the most that were out there the first round, and like some other people's too. So I don't really think Carl having the idol, he wasn't going to go first anyway.
You mentioned before that about the outpost that was something you would have liked to have done.
Yeah.
Was that, I can't remember, were the outposts being chosen by your own tribe or the other tribe?
The other tribe chose two people to go and decide what to do. Yeah.
You have a second reward challenge that day, correct me if I'm wrong, it's idle hands where you're trying to knock the thing off the pedestal. Is that the one that you had? Or was it a different reward challenge?
Yes, it was where the ball was on top of the circle thing. And you had to knock the ball off the person's. Yes.
How was that for you?
So I did decent. When it was my turn, James gave me clues. He was trying to help me. He's like, go, you're really short. So kneel down. Right. So I don't know if everyone really thought, but I was kind of just focused and not answering because I was just, trying to focus on the thing. But I was kneeling down. I was against Joe because everyone kept going. And I was like, wait, pair me with someone's one of the shorter girls. But then I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm against Joe. And Joe's like, come here, Debbie. I just really want to shake your hand. And I was kneeling down, but going close to her, but I knew I wasn't going to shake her hand. And everyone's like, no, Debbie, don't do it. Don't do it. I'm like, I didn't answer my tribe at the time, but afterwards I'm like, guys, I wasn't going to do it. Come on. Do you think I'm stupid? But I don't know if they really thought I was going to do it or they just said that. I was not going to shake her hand, but I was just going to psych her out to try and make her think I was going to shake her hand. And I was like, no. And I was kneeling so I can try and get under Joe, like James told me, to bop her ball off. So it almost worked. I think I actually did decent in that challenge because I did that. And then I went under, and then all of a sudden, both mine and Joe's fell off, but mine fell off first. She got me first, 2 seconds before hers. So she only beat me by a few seconds. So it wasn't that was decent.
And so I believe Okino wins this challenge again, correct?
Of course. Wah, wah. Yeah.
Was there an outpost this round?
There was every round, so there had to have been.
Okay.
I just don't remember who went. Was it Blake had gone already, right?
Yeah. So Blake, Carl, James, and Sandra have all gone to the one.
It might have been Jeff and Shauna.
Okay.
I think it was Jeff and Shauna. Yeah. I think I don't remember exactly what they had. Oh, I think Jeff got either more rice or did they get cookies? Like cookies and ketchup were one of them, but they didn't get it. It might have been more rice or I don't remember exactly what it was.
I feel like the ketchup was the meme of the season because it kept like being there, and everyone's like, "Why is this so expensive?"
I don't know why. Like we were just using like garlic, like from our garlic pills in the rice, like for garlic, like opening the oil like from the garlic pills. That was yummy. But like the rice, we don't need the ketchup. Like
Oh,
yeah.
I definitely had ketchup rice when I played, but so I can verify that when you're hungry, you just don't care at that point.
Yeah, I mean the rice was filling for me personally that I didn't care
Mhm,
about the ketchup. I don't think anyone else really cared. I think just being full, like the rice was filling enough.
mhm. So, eh, rounding out all the reward challenges, your tribe has lost 3 in a row. What's the morale like at camp?
We're like, we just need to win. So I think at that point, everyone's like, we just need tribe strong. We need to win.
Hmm.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think, my whole life I've been underestimated. I'm this petite female.
Hmm.
I was a little older compared to maybe like people, in the game, not really on the tribe, but well, one of the older, not
Hmm.
oldest. But I'm this petite female. My whole life, I'm underestimated as, she's small, she must be weak, like just in general. And that's what I think the perception sometimes is of me in Survivor games. Like,
Hmm.
maybe she's not the strongest on the tribe. Maybe I'm not going to be like physical, like the physical strength, like some of the strong guys. So I think as a whole, our tribe was just not winning. I don't think I was the reason we didn't win the reward challenges. We'll talk
Hmm.
about kayaking in a second, but I didn't help to win. I just think I was like not the best, maybe probably on like one of the not as good sides. Yeah, we just wanted team strong. So I think at that point they're thinking, what can we just do to keep our tribe the strongest? And that's probably when they thought, well, I'm probably the least strong on the tribe and not able to like, help make fire and as much around camp. I'm assuming that's what they were probably thinking. But I think at that point they were just thinking like, we need to win, we
Hmm.
need to sleep, we need to eat rice, we need a strong tribe so that we can wake up in the morning and win.
Who are you feeling comfortable with as we kind of roll into that first immunity challenge? Who did you feel like you were making inroads to form an alliance with?
In the first immunity challenge, I mean, definitely Maddie. I
Mhm.
felt the most comfortable with Maddie, and he even said, which warmed my heart, in his finale speech that I think he said his biggest regret was not trying to save me the first round because I was one of the allies that he was trying to work with, and he didn't want to push too hard, and he definitely did tell me, like, I believed him that he was trying to save me, and I also didn't want to be too aggressive, so definitely Maddie. I still thought that I wanted to work with Jeff, but I could tell he was kind of trying to like talk on the side towards other people and not
Mhm.
being as like friendly to me as he was in the first place. So I'm like, okay. I was trying to work with Shauna, but I didn't, she turns out she was lying to me. But yeah, I definitely wanted to work with Shauna. I wanted to work
Mhm.
with Jordan. Like Jordan kind of made me feel like too, like, oh, no one's telling me the plan. And I also um yeah, I think those were really the people that I was trying to work with at that time.
You have your first immunity challenge. This is kind of the kayak relay race that finishes up with a puzzle. Uh,
Yeah.
how did this does not go well for your tribe, but how is this challenge for you?
God. God. Well, so James knocks the boat over. We're like, oh crap. So I knew I was not gonna be good at kayaking because I don't
Mhm.
kayak, and I'm like, oh my god. And like, I should have held the oar in the middle. Turns out I didn't. Like that oar was heavy. And I'm like, I do lift heavy weights. I was trying to be strong, but that oar was heavy, and I also didn't want to tip that boat over. So I'm like, yeah, I think I'll wear the life jacket just in case.
Mhm.
Looking I'm embarrassed, but I'll just wear it. I'm like, Kiri wore it too. So yeah, so when it gets to I'm like, I'm gonna go on. Like, I didn't know I was gonna be one of the last, but I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be like in the spotlight. So when it gets to me, I'm like, oh shit, like I'm going backwards, I'm going towards the side. I'm like asking Prod, I'm like, how do I turn around? Frank's like, I don't know. So I turn the thing around, and they're like, Debbie, just move it to the left, this way. And Jeff was really good at like trying to prep me. He's like, move the ore the opposite way of the way you want to go and do it backwards. And I kept thinking opposite way and do it backwards. It wasn't working. So then and Jeff's like finally screaming, like, move it this way. So finally I get the puzzle piece. I move it the right way. I go back in after like getting turned around. I finally, like, I was slowed down, but I got there. You know, again, I don't think we were the reason we lost, but I definitely, like, we were already behind from the boat tipping over, but like, I definitely was one of the weak links in the challenge. And I knew that, even though they were like, oh, you did great from never kayaking. Like, you know, I got the thing, but it took me a while. Like, I definitely slowed us down. So then I get in and I know Carl, and I wasn't mad at all. I just was like, I don't want to be black and blue, but it happened. We all got injured. I get back in and Carl's like so motivated to get the oar in to win and to get the next person out. He pulls me in and I don't know if you saw it. He knocks me on the right cheek with the oar by accident. He pulls the oar, tries to pull the oar from the boat, pulls me out and knocks me. And I'm like, oh crap. He's like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm so sorry. I'm like, don't worry. I said to Prod, to Amos or something, I'm like, just get me ice when you get a chance. I didn't want to have a big black and blue mark on my cheek. He's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, do not worry. We're going to get injured. Like, don't worry. You needed to pull me in. I sucked at that. Like, let's just get us, like, do not worry about it. But yeah, I own it. I sucked at that challenge. And after that, I was worried. I'm like, well, shit, it's either going to be me or James. But we tried. Once they were back with when we get the puzzle pieces up, they already were, like, they had a few pieces left, but they were like, had a really big lead ahead of us. So, I mean, I don't think it would have been hard for us to win at that point. But I knew that, you know, I did not perform well. I thought it was going to be James at that point, but I was like, shit. Even though they were like, oh, don't worry, you did your best. But I was like, I really didn't. I mean, I tried my best, but I knew that I did not do well. I didn't tip the boat over. I didn't fall in. And I got the piece back. But yeah.
So you lose the challenge.
Yeah.
You have all night. You have the evening and night to strategize. Trial council will be at some point the next morning. Walk me through the scramble.
Yeah. So I was blindsided. My biggest regret was not using that shot in the dark, and I was going to use it. Okay. So we get there. We're scrambling. Right away, everyone tells me it's James, right? So right away, Maddie tells me, James is pushing your name. You need to fight. I want to try and save you. I adore you. You need, like, I want to work with you. You need to be here. Like, we need to have, like, the 6 or 7 of us vote James. Don't fill in Carrie and Blake, Carl and James, but like, it needs to work. We need to have the numbers. So I'm like, okay, so we're not going to tell them. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yes, I'm sure they're working with James. So then everyone's like, Sean is telling me it's James. She's like, I think you're good. Don't worry about it. Like, people are pulling me like aside, like Jordan tells me. And I heard it went back and forth. Like, it was James. And at that one point he went to like leave for medical for his foot because he had cut it. He went to sleep early. Like, so I didn't think, like, I was like, oh, maybe he feels comfortable and he's not campaigning, but that should have been a sign that like he felt like he didn't need to. But so
talk me through why was James being targeted here?
Well, he flipped the boat over, first of all. Second of all, I think, like, you know, James was being targeted because I think that he, like, I love James and I think, like, he definitely meant well, but I think a lot of people at camp felt like he was trying to take leadership and control the game and kind of like tell people what to do, maybe like boss them around a little bit. So I think people kind of were like, okay, like he thinks he's like, you know, the king of the camp. And you know, he didn't do well in the challenge, and he just kind of was like trying to like tell people like how he wants to work at Merge. And I think people just were also, they knew Blake and James were a duo. So I thought that, you know, people wanted to break them up because of that. And
so in terms of the you versus James, the vote, did you think it was going to be close? Did you feel like it was going to be a dogpile on James? How did you feel like the votes were going to break out?
So, yeah. So okay. So then after that, so Maddie tells me don't tell Carl. And then later he tells Carl, and I'm like, I thought you told me, like, you swear, like, don't tell Carl. He's like, no, we're good. Carl is going to vote for James. And I'm like, did he change his mind? Are they blindsiding me now? like, did they change? So I'm like, okay. Then everyone tells me, Carl's like, yeah, like, what do you want to do? Who do you want to see out? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, I just want to win, but like, I don't plan on voting you out. I should have noticed that as a red flag. So Then everyone makes me feel comfortable that they're all voting James. James is asleep early. He's not even campaigning the next day. I'm like, why? I said to Sandra, why isn't he campaigning? She's like, it's just on brand for him. Everyone makes me feel like they're voting James. So then finally I have a conversation with Jeff, who makes me feel comfortable again. And he's like, I said, okay, well, I know my name's out there. I'm a number for you. Like, I should have pitched more that I was going to be loyal AF to them, but I didn't want to be too aggressive at that point. But I was like, you know, I'm a number for you. Like, how can I save myself? Like they're all telling me it's James. And I'm like, and I thought about it, and Jeff kind of pitched it to me too, and it made sense. And I'm like, well, I thought at this point it was going to be James. And I'm like, well, what if James uses his shot in the dark? If he thinks it's him, and I'm like, and then if him and Blake vote me, I'm screwed. So I need to throw a vote on Blake in case James uses his shot in the dark. And then if it ties me and Blake, they convinced me it would be a revote to vote out Blake because they want to get rid of the duo, right? That they were a threat. So Jeff pitches me, because I actually I think I pitched it to him first, and he pitched it back. He's like, that's a great idea. He's like, why don't you throw your vote on Blake in case in case James uses the shot in the dark. And then I said that to Maddie. Maddie was like unsure. He's like, I don't know. I'm like, no, I think I'm going to do that. He's like, you should just vote James. But so I was scared because I knew that there were at least going to be a few votes for me because of James and Blake. And neither of them were talking to me to campaign at that point. I had a good personal relationship with Blake, and he was not. He's like, we need to talk later. And he did not talk to me. So I knew he was going to vote for me. And I was like, there's no point of me even trying to talk to him at this point. So, I decided I'm going to throw my vote on Blake because I thought that plan would work if they weren't lying to me, which they blindsided me, that if James uses a shot in the dark as a backup plan and I vote Blake and they vote me, it would be a revote and a tie and we would vote out Blake. That's what I was told, right? So at that point, I'm debating using my shot in the dark because I'm like, well, I know I'm getting votes. Should I use my shot in the dark? Is it a good idea to use it the first round? If I'm going to be safe, if they say it's James, then I'm wasting it. Like, do I go out? Do I cause chaos already? And I'm like, I want to be exciting and cause chaos. Like, I want to use it. But then they were all telling me I'm good. So I decided not to use it. Oh, and then I'm like, well, if I use it, I don't get my vote. And I also, even though they all probably knew it was me afterwards, I'm like, I want to throw a hinky vote and cause a little chaos and vote Blake, like just throw a vote. But so if I use my shot in the dark, I don't get to have my vote. So I really wanted my vote that round. After the game, I think it was Maddie and Jordan. Jordan was like telling me, she was debating, telling me to use my shot in the dark. And Maddie's like, I should have told you. I'm like, Jordan, I said, I was right behind Jordan because she was helping me carry my sandals to tribal council. You told me to use my shot in the dark 2 minutes before tribal council. I would have 100% used it. So I just needed someone to tell me, use it, and I would have used it. But yeah, they made me feel comfortable. So I was like, let me save it. And then if I get out at redemption, I'll have it if I get back in the game. So that was my one regret, not using it. I mean, it was a 1 in 10 chance, but so anyway, so at that point, they all blindsided me. I'm confident it's going to be James, but I was a little scared because I knew I was going to get votes.
So the vote ends up being 7 votes you, 2 votes James, 1 vote Blake. You are the vote for Blake. Yeah. I believe Sandra voted for James. Do you know who else ended up voting for James?
So I was told, so I know it was definitely Maddie. I was told it was Shauna and Maddie.
Okay, interesting.
Shauna told me it was her, and Maddie told me it was him and Shauna. But which would make sense, but I don't know because then Shauna was, playing Survivor and lying to me at the battle back. So I don't know if it would make sense it was Shauna because I talked to her more than Sandra, but I don't know because I was watching the recap back after, and when James was talking to Shauna and Maddie, and Shauna said to Maddie, just lie, so it made it seem like it was Shauna and Maddie, but I know it was definitely Maddie. It was one of them.
Okay, so you're voted out. You're off the battle back. You kind of mentioned before, there's no way you're saying no to that.
Yeah, but I think my tribe kind of didn't know. Some of them thought I wasn't going to go there. I think maybe because they're like, oh, you're a mom. I'm already there for the game. I'm not getting home. And, I'm not a quitter. I don't quit the game. First of all, I already missed things like I'm there. I wasn't going to quit. I came to play. I came to make connections and play the game. And I think they thought which I did say, I think I said to Jeff and Maddie and some people, I'm like, I'm scared to go to Redemption and be by myself. Like, I'm not a camper. So I think they thought, oh my God, what is she going to do by herself?
Well, it sounds like those first 3 hours of you there, you're not there alone. Frank, who's reduction, is there with you for at least like majority of the time.
I would say, so I don't know how long, because I definitely slept when he left. Maybe half the time. He was there for a while building the shelter, and then I did fall asleep during part of that on like whatever it was, like a sheet or a garbage bag on the ground or whatever while he was building it. Then he left. I was eating the yogurt. He's like, just meditate, be with nature. I'm like, oh my gosh. At first I was getting all bitten up despite all the bug spray and garlic pills. And I'm like, I'm getting really bitten up. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, this is so hard by myself. He's like, you can do it. You're strong. Be at one with nature and meditate. I'm like, meditate. Oh my God. So
the number one weapon against mosquitoes.
Yeah. What'd you say?
The number one weapon against mosquitoes.
Yeah. So, then I'm like, God, I have to pee. I'm going to pee by myself. Like the girls would go to pee together, you know? And then, which mosquitoes bit me then too on my private areas. Then I fall asleep again. Okay, then he leaves. I'm eating my yogurt and I'm like walking around. He comes back. I fall asleep again when he comes back on the ground. And I must have just passed out, and I wake up and he's gone. No walkie. The first time when he left, he's like, I'm going to leave because they have the challenge, but don't worry, I'm going to be gone shortly. And then I'll be gone for tribal council, but someone will come back before nighttime. You won't be sleeping alone. Like, don't worry, someone will be back. But he couldn't tell me when, just shortly. So he comes back to build a shelter again. Like I fall asleep. There's no walkie-talkie or anything. I wake up and he's gone again. And I'm like, oh my God, when is he coming back? I'm by myself. So I try and fall asleep again. I pace and walk around the camp. I see like, you know, the cabin. Like I pace. I'm like, there's no way. Like I got to stay here. Like, I don't like being by myself. So I'm an extrovert. So I'm like walking and I'm like, just sitting and trying to be at one with nature, as Frank said. So it felt like it felt like the whole time was 3 hours. It felt like I was probably by myself. I don't know, maybe an hour and a half or so. I don't know. And then finally Frank comes back with Joe.
Before we talk about Joe arriving, what was there to do on Redemption? Were you told like, hey, there's stuff hidden, or there's tasks, or just like one with nature?
When I was there by myself, it was me, the granola bar, the yogurt I ate, my water, and I mean the fire pit but I didn't know how to make fire at that point. So I could have done that. I could have collected sticks, and he told me like I could, if I didn't fall asleep, I could have watched him build the shelter and maybe like build part of it or build a chair. But there really wasn't anything for me to do because I couldn't make fire. And yeah, so at that point it was kind of just a waiting game. I could have sat in the shelter, but it was like there was no mat. I was like, I'm just gonna sit around and walk. And I actually did walk around. I didn't have the bush guide there. It was back at camp, and I walked around and I tried to like see if there were any edible plants I could eat. I think I tried to taste one of them that I thought was edible, which really wasn't. But yeah, I mean, I was kind of just pacing and thinking and trying to sleep the time off. Yeah.
So Joe arrives and you're no longer alone. Talk to me about Joe.
So I see Joe, and I don't know if she knew I was the one voted out. No, she must have, because the tribe knew. Yeah. So I see Joe and I'm like, oh, thank God it's you. And she's like, oh, I'm so happy to see you. And I gave her a big hug, and I'm like, I saw you day one. I knew you were a mom, and I got a good vibe from her. And she was like, yes, I got a good vibe from you. And we just hugged, and I was like, I'm so happy it's you. I'm so happy to connect, girl. So we just talk about what went wrong. And that's why I'm like, I would have done better on your tribe. And she's like, I would have done better on your tribe. And she told me like what happened and how her game went wrong. And I was like, well, we're here. Like, we have a chance to battle back. Like, let's just, when she got there, that's when they gave us our first challenge. Frank said, your first challenge is to make fire. So obviously she did it. She had me help her by collecting the sticks, and she made fire, showed me how, but like, you know, I didn't do it. I was just collecting the sticks. And that's when Frank said, you know, you're at Redemption for however long. It wound up being 2 nights. it's just going to be you two tonight. Someone's going to come in the morning. But while you're here, you're going to have challenges and ways to earn fire tokens that you can use to earn things at redemption camp and for when you get back into the game. Like, you're still, your game is still here.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe and I are bonding. There is a point at night when she tells me that she doesn't feel good. I'm not going to go into detail, but that she doesn't feel well. And like, she was like unsure if she was going to continue on. And I'm like, you cannot quit on me. I cannot sleep here by myself. I'm like, you have to stay with me. So then Frank finally says, oh, if she did wind up going, I would have put earphones on and slept there with you. I'm like, thank God, because I would have been scared by myself. Because I was like, I'm not quitting. But I convinced her to stay. And she's like, I'm staying. Like, she felt better. I'm like, I convinced her. I'm like, you got to hold on. We have a second chance. Like, we're here to play. So I convinced her to stay with me. So we bonded. We had so much fun laughing that night. We were like in this burrito thing with the mats and the tarp thing that we slept on. We rolled it around ourselves. There was a video of Frank's. Some parts didn't make it. That Frank, I don't know if I should say this, but it was funny. He was trying to teach us how to have a clean, happy camp. I was disheveled, cold. So what he said to me, there was a point where there was like a lizard in our thing and we were scared it was going to nibble on our feet. Finally, the lizard got out of the mat. Frank's like trying to teach us how to stay warm because the fire kept going out. He's like, I'm going to pee. What if so he peed in a warm bottle and he said to me, the piss bottle, yes, Stan.
I was going to ask, like, there's a story here.
Oh, it's hilarious. Stan was there where the four of us are cracking up. So Frank pees in the bottle and he says, here, Debbie, sleep with this bottle if you want to stay warm.
Oh my gosh.
Joe goes, she's not sleeping next to me because we were cuddling. She's like, I'll be big spoon, you're little spoon. Like, we're cuddled up. She's like, she is not sleeping next to me with that water bottle. She's like, I could just imagine the water bottle opening and exploding. And Frank's piss going everywhere. So I said, you know what? Forget it, Frank. I'm not sleeping with your pee.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
But it was a nice gesture.
Yes, I don't know if some of those will make the episodes. I'm glad we have this conversation right now.
Oh, there's a lot you didn't see. Oh, then there was apparently when we were at camp, I don't know how I thought it was a tick. There was a big bug on me. Jordan tells me while we're voted out, by the way, that was a black widow on you. I didn't want to tell you to scare you, but I flicked it off. I'm like, there was a black widow on me. Oh my God. When I'm with Joe, she goes, at this point, I'm wearing my sandals. My feet are all bitten up. My socks are still damp. My shoes are damp. Like, we're kind of walking barefoot, but like, I'm like, not like barefoot while I'm sitting there, but like walking around camp with my Birkenstock sandals. Joe goes, oh my God, there's a black widow right under your foot. Step on it. I'm like, I'm wearing a sandal. She goes, just step on it to kill it. I stepped on it with like a sandal, like my, barefoot under a sandal. She goes, you're badass. You just killed a black widow by stepping on it. I'm like, shit. Oh my God. I mean, we ate a rat redemption camp with Debbie and Joe. Night one was probably one of the funniest moments in my Reelfoot career. I'm glad, Stan. We were cracking up. Like, I had so much, like, it was so much fun. And that was like part of my experience, right? Like, those were the moments. I mean, night two, we almost got sprayed by a skunk. We ate a rattlesnake. I mean, there's so many things, but yeah, I'm getting off the topic. So yeah, so I really loved Joe. Like, we were like besties, we bonded. And, yeah, that night was, I mean, I finally got a little bit of sleep that night, sleeping on my backpack with the toilet paper roll in the backpack as a pillow. So with my hood up finally, cause my hoodie was finally dry.
So we're in day 4. You're in redemption with you and Joe. I guess that morning you have another player joining you. Melanie.
Okay. So before that, in the morning, we get Tiptoes, pulls the tarp, mat off us that was the blanket that we were supposed to put leaves in and we never did. Frank pulls it off. Wake up! This second you guys are doing a puzzle. We're like, well, good morning. Shit. Like, rise and shine. So the second we wake up, we were fast asleep. We had to do a puzzle, which we just missed. And actually, that was the same type of puzzle that I had won a veto in my Big Brother game. So I was like, I think we could do it, but we just missed the time. But yeah, so we keep doing these challenges. So then Melanie comes.
Mm-hmm.
And tells us like what happened with her and Joe. She was actually in my car. And when we talk finally at Redemption, I find out like she's from Philly and we both played competitive events and know some of the same people. And I was like, oh, like would have loved to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all bonding. And then we get to play Frank and Jenga for another comp, which me and Melanie beat Frank. So to earn more fire tokens and like, you know, some snacks like fruits and nuts. And then we also, I think like, yeah, I think we put orange peels in the water. Like we were just being creative.
Mm-hmm.
So Melanie comes. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm just looking at my notes and I think I gotta swap things. So when Melanie comes, does she tell you that Danny was voted out and chose not to go to Redemption?
She didn't. They didn't want to tell us who. Wait, was Melanie before Danny? Or
so Danny was voted out day 3. That chooses not to go to Redemption, right? And then day 4 started. You have both Melanie and James voted out.
Oh,
Melanie,
I'm sorry.
Melanie would know about Danny.
Okay, so here's what happened. Right. Okay, rewind it a little. That's right. Night 2, we were supposed to get someone else. Trevor comes like at the end of the night and he says, I can't tell you who, but there's someone, but it's just you two right now. Someone else was voted out that chose not to, I don't, like, he didn't say he asked to be voted out. He just said someone was voted out that chose not to come to Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And they wouldn't tell us who. They kept us guessing. And I'm like, oh, like who? Like, are you surprised? And they're like, we can't tell you. So we didn't know until Melanie came that next morning and was able to tell us it was Danny. Yeah, I guess, I don't remember. I think she must have told us it was Danny. Yeah, I was surprised. I had no clue that he was even sick there and struggling. But once I, got out and bonded with Danny, love you, Danny, like realized, but I was shocked because it looked like from that tribe that he was like doing really well and in a good spot.
Were you and Joe surprised that with Melanie joining you? Because I know at Joe's tribal council there had been a vote cast for Melanie. I just don't know from
her. I wasn't on that tribe, so I didn't know who to expect. I don't think Joe was that surprised because she did mention that there was a vote for her. Like she did mention that her name was out there on that vote as well.
So the next person who joins you at Redemption is you have Jeff.
Yeah. So before Jeff was supposed to be James, and they tell us again, someone didn't come. We can't tell you who it is. And like, we're guess. I'm like, it's gotta be James. Like I guessed, I'm like, it's probably James. So then when Jeff comes, we find out it's James. Yeah. But which I guessed. So then Jeff,
one of my favorite things of the Redemption season, Jeff comes and all of you are just like, are you sure you want to be here? Are you sure you don't want to like go back inside to a nice bed, warm food? Like you don't have to do this, Jeff. And Jeff's like, no, I'm staying.
I think we were kind of just like joking around because we were used to people not coming and we're like, we could just be us 3 girls like battling because they were calling us the Golden Girls, like the 3 moms at that point, right? Because we were the 3 moms. And we're like, we were joking around, but I mean, Jeff's a competitor. There was no way Jeff was giving up anyway. And when I saw Jeff, I was kind of like, so you voted me out. Now you're here. You should have kept me. But yeah, I was actually surprised to see Jeff because I thought he was in a really good spot on our tribe. Like I thought he was kind of at the top with Sandra and Maddie. So I was surprised to see Jeff. And he told us it was the swap and they got him out and he's like, Melissa got me. And yeah, so he's a competitor. So when Jeff came, I'm like, at that point I didn't know it was a female and a male going back in. And I'm like, well, crap, Jeff's gonna beat all our asses. I'm like, Jeff's definitely gonna beat me in Redemption. In the battle back. Yeah.
From talking with Jeff, did that give you any new insight or understanding to what had happened around you went home? Yeah,
for sure. I think Jeff kind of told me that, he had to go with the numbers. It wasn't up to him. It was more about the challenge performance, which I knew, that they just wanted to win the challenge. And that, yeah, I think that was pretty much that he told me, like, it was the challenge performance. And that they were debating between me and James, but they wanted tribe strength. And I think that was like pretty much it, which I pretty much knew. And he did tell me that, like, yeah, because I was like, oh, was it because I was asking a lot of questions and seeming like paranoid about the surroundings, not the game itself, but like, because in a game in a house, like, there's nothing to be like, it's just the game, but like the camp surroundings. And he's like, yeah, a little bit of that too in there. And like, I think he was the one who also told me, I'm not sure if it was him or someone else. I think it was him. Yes. He told me another factor was that they all knew I had connections on the other tribe. And yes, I'm pretty sure it was Jeff, and that they thought I was going to flip. And so I'm like, at that point, I had told no one I had connections on the other tribe. So I'm like, who? Maybe it was Kiri that knew, but and I'm like, well, kind of was true. I probably would have flipped. But I'm like, well, shit. So yeah, so he told me. So I was like, okay, it was the connections thing too. I was like, well, I would have been loyal to you. He's like, well, now that I'm here, I know. Next
Debbie,
time, wah, wah. Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, you're good now.
Yeah. So he told me the reasons, which I appreciated.
The last person to join you that night is Blake.
Yeah.
And so tell me about Blake's entry to Redemption.
Yeah, Blake came in hot, like pissed. He goes to me and Joe. He's like, if we three get back in, I'm working with you guys. I think he more so wanted to work with Joe, but that's okay. But like, he was like, I'm pissed. I'm getting back in. They screwed me at the swap. And he's a competitor. And yeah, like we had like one of the comps for like the auction items that night, and the comfort items to sleep, and like trying the snake, and Blake was like the first to do that. And yeah, no, Blake definitely wanted to get back in.
Anything else happened day 4 that you want to mention?
So we had the comp for like auctioning items, if we can guess the price is right for how much each thing costs. Like this like what's it called? It wasn't a pillow, it was like a hammock pillow, a sleeping bag that we all shared, a chair. And we guessed the price was right for certain things like snacks. We were able to buy fire tokens for them. Another thing that aired, which they I don't think Blake was there.
You win a challenge, or you get a phone call, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say the phone call. So I don't think Blake was there for that. I think it was just me. Yeah, it was the 4 of us. It was me, Jeff, Melanie, and Joe. So Melanie didn't need to do it, but me and Joe, as mama bears, were like, can we please have the phone call home? And Jeff and Melanie were kind enough to let us buy fire tokens for it. So I had my 60-second phone call home. And it was funny because when my husband answered, he was like, I'm the best. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I have 60 seconds. And then my kids were trying to talk game. I'm like, 60 seconds. Are you guys okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm doing a lot, holding down the fort. Like, just wanted everyone to know I'm the dad of the year. And then I didn't know what time it was. I thought it was like 3:00. So both my kids are home, and I'm like, wait, why are you both home from school? And they're like, it's 6:00. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what time. They're like, don't you know what time it is? I'm like, I have no clue. I just see daylight. So yeah, so that was good. I just want to make sure my kids were okay. They had everything they needed. No one was sick. They went to their activities. So yeah, that was a good call just to make sure.
So it's probably.
So yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say it was just the call and then like a few comps. Oh, we also had the superlatives comp where whoever won got fire tokens, where we had to guess like who, could turn into a superhero from the most bug bites, who's the class clown, who would set the camp on fire, me, who has the funniest laugh. I think I tied with Joe, stuff like that. It was funny.
So that next night must have been a very different night because you went from 2 people to 5 people.
Yeah. But we had the comfort items. We had the sleeping bag. So we definitely had a squish, but Frank built out our shelter. Like, we had more room with the logs. We were told to like sleep with our head towards the higher end, not the lower end. So like, I think like Joe had the mat, me, Jeff, and I think it was just me and Jeff that shared the sleep. Oh, no, me, Jeff, and Blake, I think share, or maybe it was Melanie too, that shared the sleeping bag or the blanket thing that we put across all of us. I was next to Jeff. I remember like we kept like pulling it and everyone's like pushing towards each other. I'm like, it's all right. I just want some blanket and my backpack with the toilet paper in it as a soft pillow. And then Melanie and Blake got that like pillow thing. So we had more of the comfort item. So after we woke up, everyone was like, we got the best night of sleep that night at camp. Like we actually slept a decent amount.
So looking at the game at this point, there are 13 players left in the game once Blake is voted out. How soon are you anticipating a merge, and how soon are you anticipating the battle back challenge?
I think we all pretty much knew the battle back was going to be like the first time of merge, and like whoever gets in battle back and is going to be juror number 1. Like we probably anticipated it. So we knew it was going to be that next day. Like we figured it's not going to be like, we figured it would be that day and a few more people would come. And then, so then Shauna comes the next day, that next morning. And again, I think my tribe just wasn't sure who was there, that I was there. So Shauna, like when she came to give me a hug, she goes, "Oh my God, Debbie, you're a warrior. You've been here the whole time." I'm like, you guys underestimated me. I knew I'd be here. I'm not giving up. So Shauna comes, and she tells us like what happened. And then someone was supposed to come after Shauna that they told us didn't come. And we're all like, oh, like it wound up being Jordan, but we're like, they thought maybe it would be Jordan, but we're like, oh, who would not like, we're almost going to battle back. Like it's pretty quick. And then the last person to come was Maddie. Who I was like, I'm glad he won because that was the person I felt the best with. And I was like, oh, I wish he wasn't here. And then he gave me a hug and he's like, "Debbie, you're a freaking warrior. Oh my God, I'm happy to see you here." And then like everyone was like, "Oh no," like Shauna was like, "Oh, I can't believe Maddie's like wanted him to be in the game." So yeah, they were, yeah. So at that point, you know, Maddie comes. Shauna was there since the morning. We skipped Jordan because she didn't come. Maddie comes and like I think then they're like, "All right, you have an hour till battle back."
So there's 7 competitors. With 3.
What? Sorry, one thing I wanted to say, which is important to me. So, sorry, I just don't want to forget this. So, one thing I can live without it, but one thing I have every day is coffee. So when you asked about things that happened, things that we bought, one thing that we bought was we all got to share like one little cup of coffee and split it like 3 ways at one point between me, Melanie, and it was 4 ways between, or maybe it was 5 ways. I think Blake was there too. And those 3 sips of coffee was the best coffee I ever tasted. So anyway, that was part of it.
I've heard in Survival Challenge, caffeine withdrawal really hitting people harder than expected. At least because
like
Reelfoot.
Yeah.
So looking kind of the lay of the land, there's a lot of original Pink or non-Kana players who are with you at Redemption. Before talking about the challenge itself, had you gone back in the game, what would you have done? What were your plans?
Yeah, a lot of Pink were there, and you know, Pink just got disseminated. Like we just, you know, they obviously like we were in a losing streak, and you know, my tribe blindsided me. So I didn't really have loyalty to them. And quite honestly, they were probably right. Like I would have probably, depending who I bonded with, like I always felt close with Maddie. Like I said, I was trying to work with certain people. I did want to work with that other tribe anyway. Like I wanted to get to merge. I wanted to work with Melissa. I wanted to work with Danny if he was still there. I wanted to work with Tony. I wanted to, you know, try and work with German this time. And there were other people I wanted to meet as well. So I wasn't that upset if I were to get back in about the Pink because I was a free agent starting over at that point anyway. And that's what we were all like telling each other, whoever gets in. I'm like, they were like, well, you're a free agent. And that would have been my pitch to people, like draw me in as a number to your alliance. So yeah, I wasn't worried about that.
So talk me through the redemption challenges because there's several rounds of these.
Yeah. So we get there. And at this point, I put my socks and shoes on. My feet are so swollen from the bug bites. I could barely put my shoes on or walk from the swelling, but I'm like, I don't care. If I get back in the game, I'll deal with it. Like I'm determined. So we get to the battle back. The first part is this endurance challenge, which I'm like, okay, that's my jam. Like, I can do this. But Melanie and Sean are freaking badass at endurance. And Melanie's a pole dancer. Like, I do bar and yoga, but she's a pole dancer. So, yeah, we do it. You know, Blake says Blake drops first. He says oh my God, what word am I looking for? When you drop on purpose. Oh my God. What word am I looking for? Why am I throw? He says he throws the challenge. Yeah, why couldn't I think of that? He says he throws it. I don't know if he did or not, but I try. Everyone's talking about like, do you put your leg next to you or like a runner's lunge behind you? And I remember like producers commenting like, Melanie put her leg next to her. I don't know why I put mine behind me as a runner's lunge, like trying to do like a squat because that's what I do a lot in gym classes. And I remember Prod saying Debbie's strategy is her leg behind her. I don't know if it works or not. I'm like, shit, my knee was cramping. So I'm like, at this point, I can't even move my leg next to me because if I move it, I'm gonna drop the thing. So I'm trying to I'm trying to bend my leg because I don't want to be straight where my knee's gonna like cramp up and lock. So I'm trying to like bend, and then my thing moves, and then me and Joe's are like shaking, and I was just, I'm trying to keep it there. I'm pretty good at endurance, but that thing was very heavy, and I'm also very short. So the thing was heavy, and it was like Jeff lasted long. He's, I mean, props to him, but I remember like it was very heavy, and being like small, I'm like, this thing is very heavy, and like I don't know, I just thought if you were taller, you had an advantage, but all of a sudden I made one wrong move. I didn't even drop it. I just shook, just my body shook, the log shook the wrong way, and the green thing shook, and it just fell off. I didn't even the log didn't fall down. It just shook and it fell off the wrong way. And I'm like, fuck, the thing just fell. So I'm out. So me and Blake are sitting out, and we're talking about like, oh, maybe we can get back in. He says he's gonna try and work with me, but he didn't even vote me back in. But we're thinking what the next round is. At this point, I didn't know it was fire making, but once I knew, it would have been embarrassing. I wouldn't have won that anyway. I couldn't have done it. So it was over. But either way, it was over because I couldn't have made fire. I just wanted to win, to get back in. So I should have taken Frank's advice and practiced making it. But so Frank said to me, like, one thing, like, he's like, I watched you get stronger and stronger, every time I would come, which is true, because he said to me, he's like, you got to be positive. Lydia came and she was down in the dumps, and then she got back in, and, he was giving us hints that I should have picked more up on. But anyway, so then I'm out. Melanie wins the first part. Then we vote people back in. Shauna begs me, if you vote for me, I'll make a deal with you. I'll vote for you. Once again, I believed her, lied to me the second time. And Sean, I remember Joe gives me a look, and I felt bad because I knew that Joe and I wanted to vote for each other, probably because we became really close at redemption. And I was going to vote for Joe, but then part of me was like, not to like be selfish, but I'm like, okay, well, if I don't vote Joe back in and I'm at the house, I kind of want to hang out with her. So like, there with me. So Shauna makes a deal. I'm like, okay, I believe her. So I vote Shauna. Then when I hear I didn't get the votes, I'm like, you literally just lied to my face. She's like, I'm sorry, that was a survivor. I'm like, oh my God, like 2 seconds ago, like, it was fine. It was the game. So yeah, so Shauna doesn't vote me. She thought I was going to get the votes. So whether that's true or not, she thought they were going to vote me in. But then Jeff asks me to vote him, says he would. I vote Jeff. I see Jeff. I was loyal. But so then it's Shauna versus Melanie in fire making, and then they vote Blake. Oh, so Jeff wins the guys one against. Maddie wins the guys one against Jeff. And then Maddie against Blake, and Shauna and Maddie get back in, which is funny because it's the 2 latest that just got out go back in anyway. So that just got out.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's like they went out and they went back in, so there's a little bit of a revolving door there. So I guess talking a little about the merge, you have, at least from my perspective, kind of 2 alliances just go head-to-head clash with each other. Do you know which side you would have been on?
So, okay, so remind me, the two alliances that clashed with each other, you mean like the
So my
Carl,
understanding is you
Kiri?
have Matthew, Sandra, Charlie, German, Carl, Hannah, and Shauna are on one side, and then you have Trinica, Ethan, Melissa, Tony, and Carl on the other side. So it was kind of
Right.
the two swap tribes going at each other, from my understanding.
So wait, who was Trinica? It was Trinica, Melissa, Tony,
Ethan, Carl.
and Carl. Oh, Carl was the only one from Original Pink on
Yeah.
that side. And then Kiri was on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think generally I think that's my understanding. Do you know, would you have?
Yeah, so I think I wanted to work with Melissa really badly in this game.
Mhm.
So I think I would have done everything I could to work with Melissa and like be a number for her.
Mhm.
And just like listen to her. So I think I would have worked with Melissa, and I really wanted to work with Tony too. So
Mhm.
I think I would have worked with Melissa and Melissa's side, but I also really liked Maddie. But like Shauna had just lied to me twice. Chandra screwed me. Carrie screwed me. So the only reason for me to work with the pink side would be because I felt really close to Maddie, who never really lied to me. So I think I would have worked with, I mean, my goal getting in was like work with Melissa. So yeah, I think I would have worked with them with the other side. I would have flipped. You guys all blocked me. Why wouldn't I have flipped, you know?
Yeah. So Shauna and Maddie re-enter the game, and at that point, redemption comes to a close. Talk to me about kind of your feelings walking into the post game.
Yeah. So at that point, you know, people are crying. I cried at redemption. I kind of was just like stoic, but like shocked face. But I didn't cry at that point because I'm like, you know what? I've prepared for this. Mm-hmm. Like I prepared for the chance of not getting back in. The more people came, the more my competition was. You know, it wasn't just me, Mel, and Joe. So, you know, me and Joe give each other a hug, and we're like, it's okay. We're gonna go hang out now. You know, Jeff's in the corner hysterically crying. I feel bad, or I shouldn't say hysterically, but crying. I feel bad or upset. Mm-hmm. Maybe not crying, but upset. And I'm like, I go to comfort him. I'm like, I'm so sorry. You tried really hard. Like you played a really good game. You know, everyone was upset. So I was definitely upset my game was over, but I felt proud of myself that I stayed the whole time on redemption. I didn't give up. I came into the house the same time Jeff and everyone else that got out, that, you know, Blake and whatever after me. Yeah, I was proud of myself. I didn't give up. I conquered my fears. And I was sad, but I also was like, okay, there's two parts to this battle back. I either get comfort and food and drinks in the house and I get to hang out and like party a little, or I get back in the game and I get to play. So either way, it's kind of, I don't want to say a win-win. Getting back in the game is a win situation, but I don't have to stay out there anymore. So, you know, we got back in the house and I see Danny and James and Jordan and I'm like, party's here, like joking around because that's my personality. And I give Danny a big hug because I couldn't wait to talk to him. You know, I talked to James, we work it out, we hug, we're good. I was sad James left, but like, we're good. He tells me like what happened, whether it's true or not. I'm like, we're good. Like I've played, you know, yeah, I was sad and hurt, but I've played enough of these games that like, I do this to make friends too. Like, I'm not going to be bitter. I knew my mistakes and my regrets and, you know, I see Jordan. So yeah, I mean, we get back in and we're eating snacks and kind of drinking and, I shower. So right away I get a snack to eat and then the showers. I'm like, I get to shower right away. I'm like Joe's like, go shower. I'm like, yep. And we get to all talk and, you know, talk about the game and just hang out and get to know each other. And, you know, we played with O'Rear being there. Of course, we played minis. And I do have to say, I did win, even though it was a little fake little thing, I did win a little Big Brother mini at the house. So I did get my first technical win. Just kidding. No, but we had fun. Like we played cards, you know. So yeah, I mean, I'm out, my game's over. But you know, at that point I'm just like bonding with all the pre-jury and production and just hanging out and yeah, just soaking in the experience.
Is there anything else you want to talk about your time in the game or the time kind of in the post game?
So, you know, in post game, I definitely like I was asking, you know, people in the pre-jury, like what happened. Like I did ask Jordan what happened. I know she was like asking me in the morning when I'm sober, and then she's like, I forgot. But like I think it was Jordan that did say, like, I wish I got to know you more in the game. Like, oh, like, you would have been loyal. I'm like, I would have been loyal. I would have been a number for you. Like, you wouldn't have been gone. Maybe Jeff wouldn't have been gone. I mean, I don't know. But I'm saying, like, you guys could have had me as a number. Like, people that know me know I'm loyal AF. If you create a solid alliance with me, I wouldn't have had to feel like I had to flip on people I knew, So, yeah, I mean, at that point, I'm talking to people, like finding out what went wrong, but just getting to know people, like seeing what happened in the game with them. And I think, like, being out so early in the game, people didn't really get to know me and who I really am. And I think that people got to know me a little bit more in the cabin in the vote out house. I think if someone's like, there were other elements that I don't want to say distracted, but that made me like paranoid in the game, like all the bugs, the rain, the working around camp. It's not just Big Brother where like I don't have distractions. I play the game. And it's so interesting because I think of myself as a big player, as a Big Brother player, as like someone that can get to the end. And in Survivor, it's not that way. It's like the opposite. So I'm like, I think I need to work on my survival, my outdoor skills. But yeah, I think it's just the way I'm perceived in Survivor games as like not as a strong comp player when it comes to the tribes. But I was glad to get to know everyone. I'm really glad we had the Redemption Island, because if I was out first and just sat in the house the whole time after like day 2 or 3, like, I wouldn't have had the full experience that I had, that all the other pre-jury members had. So I do think that like I really enjoyed the redemption part of the game and like getting to know the other tribe, because again, if I went out pre-swap, I wouldn't have gotten to know the other tribe otherwise. But yeah, I mean, we all hung out, like, Melanie, like we all bonded in the house once we got out. And I did really enjoy like getting to know everyone. So yeah, I mean, like I said, the only thing I regret, I mean, there were things I regret in the game, but the biggest thing I regret is not using my shot in the dark.
But one thing you probably enjoyed was seeing Maddie go off and go ahead and win the game.
Yes. So obviously I couldn't vote. But when Maddie got back in, I was happy for him. And he said to me when he saw me, he's like, "You're a freaking warrior. I'm proud of you." And I was only in the actual game for 2.5 days with my tribe, but I really did feel close to Maddie. And I really genuinely was happy when I heard him say in his speech, and I don't know if you remember that part of his speech, where someone asked him, "What's your biggest regret?" And he said, "When Debbie went, because I was one of his allies and he wished he worked harder to save me." I mean, he still got to final 3, right? But, and we talked about that after, him and and I really love Maddie as a person. And I was happy to hear him say that, because I did genuinely feel the closest to him. I mean, there was a point where I'd ask Stan too. I had this like weird, I mean, it was just from like the rain and my tight leggings. Like I had this weird rash on my legs, and I felt comfortable pulling down my freaking pants and asking Maddie to look at my rash, because he works in
pharmaceuticals.
Pharmaceuticals. Yeah. So like I felt comfortable with him. I slept on his shoe. I wore his shirt. So I was really happy to see Maddie in the final 3. And when I saw that final 3, I was like, I really hope Maddie wins. And I was genuinely really happy for him that he won, and he won that, the money as well. So and yeah, I mean, he was a battle back, and he got back in and won. I scoped him out from day 1 as someone that's a good strategist and a good game player. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, overall, like, I definitely think, I came home run down, got, rashes and allergic reactions from bites. But I would, like I said, there's regrets I have in the game, but overall, I think it was such an amazing experience that I'm very happy I played. It was funny. There was one point, like, there's so many funny memories, but there was one point on Redemption where like we smelled skunk. And we're like, I remember Jeff's like, "I can't get sprayed by skunk. I have something in 2 weeks." I'm like, "I can't get sprayed by a skunk. I'm going with my girlfriends away this weekend." And it's funny because he just played a live game Synergy. And I'm thinking, God forbid he smelled like skunk for that. But if we almost got sprayed by a skunk, oh God. Can you imagine? Us at
It probably doesn't bode well for your longevity in a lot of things.
No. But like, anyway, but there's just, there were rocks. So we had the auction at the finale party of like auctioning things off. You know, I only have this one buff, unfortunately, but there were the rocks from Redemption Camp that we signed, like how many days we were there, and I won the rocks. And those rocks are meaningful to me. Like I put them in my backyard. I lugged them home in my carry-on bag. So yeah, I mean, first game, I was first boot. I had never been out so early before, but I'm very happy I played, and I'd love a second chance. So yeah, I've definitely learned about myself. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. I could do more than I thought I could ever do. This was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Harder than child labor. I have 2 kids.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, maybe not harder than my second one because that was natural, but I think almost as hard as child labor. Yeah. Because think about it. We almost got struck by lightning, sleeping in the rain twice, not sleeping. There was one night that I think the night before I got voted out, on my birthday, actually, I barely slept. I think I slept standing up next to the fire. I almost fell over. I almost fell asleep sitting on a log. I almost toppled over. So, it was very hard. Especially like I never like, you know, when they asked us on our interview, like your camping skills, I was like 0. I don't go camping. But you know, this game definitely taught me a lot about myself. It taught me like bugs, no problem. Sleeping in a tent, glamping, no problem. Camping, no problem. Because I feel like this is the hardest thing other than Survivor. And quite honestly, I don't know, like being on the actual island in Survivor, like I don't even think that's harder than Reelfoot. I think Reelfoot's probably just as hard.
Well, now that Survivor is 26 days, Reelfoot is a large portion of the CBS show.
Well, Survivor's longer, but you're on a warm island. Like you're not in the rain. Like there's other, I don't know. I just think it was like an authentic experience that is very close to the actual Survivor.
Do you feel like this experience has scratched that Survivor itch, or you're just like, no, this just makes me want it even more?
Oh no, this makes me definitely want it even more. You know, even though I came home like run down, like 100 bites, like I would do it all over again. And yeah, hell yeah, I'm gonna go apply for Survivor because I did this and I didn't give up. And like, you know, there's certain things in my life, in my personal life, like people that know me that like I'm a fighter. I don't give up. I'm a warrior. About a month ago in May was Lyme Disease Awareness Month. So before this game, I got a tattoo. I can actually show you a butterfly and hearts on my ankle with the green Lyme Disease Warrior symbol that symbolizes Lyme Disease Warrior. And it symbolizes like fighter and warrior. Let me try and like show you the tattoo. You can't really see it, but
now I can see it.
So, and I was like, you know, and I wanted that to like resemble, like I wanted to have it and to have it like healed and everything before I went on Reelfoot. But no, I mean, I think it just shows me that I can do anything. Anyone can do anything they set their mind to. And part of me going on was wanted to tell my story, and I wanted to inspire others that don't think they could do it, or they're dealing with like illnesses they've had. You can do it. You can push your body can do more than you think that it can do. So yeah, makes me want to go on Survivor even more. It makes me want to go on any reality TV show. Freaking put me on Squid Game. Sign me up for Beast Games or Big Brother. Big Brother's my other big dream. So absolutely.
Did you apply for Beast Games?
I didn't yet, but I plan on doing it before the deadline.
Fingers crossed you make it. I was so tempted, but I was like, I'm a teacher. I'm just like, I don't know when it is. I don't think I can take the time off for it. That makes me sad.
Yeah, I don't know when it is. I'm going to apply. So I did apply to Big Brother, got some feedback, and we'll definitely be applying next year. I mean, Big Brother's been my dream. Survivor's been a dream. I mean, I'm a competitor, so I'm definitely like, this won't be the last of me you see in LRGs, but definitely need to slow it down a little for now because I just did, 2 games in a row. But I love it. Like it's
Oh, they're
fun.
addicting.
Yeah. Oh, they're addicting. But yeah, it was just funny. Like are me and German like just following each other in games? Yeah, no, I definitely, it was a great experience, and yeah, have so many memories, and would love to, like I said, I know this was about Reelfoot, but would love to also talk to you like any other live games I've done, because I just think that like there's always a story and somebody, and you always learn things about yourself from the game. I had 2 goals coming into the game. Number 1, it's always to win, right? But that's not my first goal. My first goal in a game is always to make friends and make connections. And my second goal is to win. So if I can win friendships, then I've won in my mind. And I think that like with every game, that's a goal I have. Like when I got second in Big Brother Chicago, I'm like, all right, well, my goal was to win friendships. I definitely won them. So I won, and that's always my goal. So, I don't know if I was like misunderstood or underestimated on my tribe. I always feel like, if I'm out early, like when I was out first, I kind of felt like, oh, did they, not like me, or makes me feel bad. But I'm glad I was able to do it, and I hope people get to know me after the game. Yeah, I mean, it was a positive experience. I will say production was pretty awesome in this game as well. One thing that's hard is like, it's like Real Survivor where you don't have much with you on Reelfoot, but I think like, Survivor production was always really supportive, and especially like being in the house, really like supportive with everything you need and making you feel comfortable even once you're out of the game. So definitely a positive experience.
So as we wrap up, I have a couple like rapid fire questions to lob your way at your game. So who surprised you the most out there?
Who surprised me the most? Like meaning like who did better than I thought they would do?
Interpret it however you will.
I think maybe Carrie, because, we were in the car together. I kind of knew her before. We seemed excited to be on the same tribe. Like I really wanted to work with her, and I was disappointed when it didn't happen. And I didn't know that she was going to last that long. And I didn't know she did so well in her LRG before that, because at first she wasn't like dominating in challenges. So she surprised me that she was like badass and lasted so long. Yeah.
I think it froze again on us, Debbie.
Oh, yeah. So did you hear me?
Debbie, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you now. All right.
Okay. So yeah, did you hear me that I said, I think, Carrie was like badass and surprised me that she lasted that long in the game.
Who's the player you wish you had a chance to work with but didn't?
Well, I think I said it before, Melissa, but I knew her before. So I guess somebody that I didn't really know that I wish I got to work with and get to know, that I'm really disappointed that I didn't, is Tony, because I knew him before, like we've played an org together, and I knew of him. We have a lot of mutual friends, and he just seems like such a sweet guy. And when I saw him, I really wanted to work with Tony. And I was just disappointed that we really never got to, make that game connection.
Well, let's say in a couple of years, Reelfoot does another returning season. What is one player other than yourself you'd like to see go beyond that season?
From my season, right?
Yes, from your season.
I'm going to say, I can only say one.
Only one.
Okay, I'm going to say someone that I haven't mentioned before, only because I got to connect with her after the game. Again, never on the same tribe, but really loved her vibe from the beginning, and think she's a power player. I would say Hannah. Yeah.
What was your favorite challenge you competed in?
What was my favorite challenge? Well, I didn't get to compete in that many of them, but I can say battle
you had
back.
a lot me this time. All right. So the battle back challenge.
So, yeah, I would say Jenga because I beat Frank and it was, oh, can I say one of the challenges on Redemption Camp?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say Jenga because I beat Frank and like it was intense and it was like awesome, like being able to compete. And like that's when I had the coffee and he's like, you're getting more positive. Like I see you getting stronger and like being more confident. So, yeah.
What's a favorite camp life moment that maybe we haven't had a chance to talk about?
A favorite camp life what?
Moment.
Well, I mean, we talked about the pee bottle.
That's going to be really hard to top all season. I mean, between the lightning striking the tree and the pee bottle from Frank, I mean, it's gonna be hard to top that.
I would also say me stepping on a black widow to kill the damn thing. Eating the rattlesnake, like Blake started, we all just bit into that rattlesnake. I'm like, we're eating a poisonous cooked rattlesnake that Frank cooked in our fire and killed. Yeah, I would say, yeah, there's some of those little moments, but I would say those are the funniest. Yeah.
You can go back in time, give yourself one piece of advice coming in the Reelfoot. What would it be?
It would be to try and be more under the radar, take more risks, and obviously do better at challenges, which, sometimes I can't control, but also to make alliances like right away from the start and not miss a beat.
Well, Debbie, I think that's all the questions I have. Is there any last things that you want to bring up?
I think I pretty much talked a lot. But yeah, no, I think I pretty much said it all. I hope that yeah, I hope that that people, I hope I was able to inspire people that think they can't do it, because if little old me can do it, you could do it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I would love to maybe have a second chance one day. But I think I pretty much said everything I needed to say.
Well, Debbie, I just want to say thank you so much for taking this time to talk with me and share your story and your experience in Reelfoot. I'm so happy that it was a positive experience and that honestly, I did survive in Bloomington last year. There was redemption in there. That was my first time experiencing redemption, and it really sold me on it. I think it really does add to games. And like you said, you flew to Tennessee. You've banked to 8 days of your life, and even if you're voted on day 3, you still get 2 more full days of experience. And I think it's a real plus. So again, thank you so much, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I thank you as well. I definitely think that yeah, I mean, I'm the first boot and I'm the first interview, but I think that redemption was pretty amazing. Frank was a real inspiration there, and all of Prod was, but yeah, I think that really that the redemption camp really helps the spirit. So, well, thank you, Stephen. Look forward to hearing more of these and hope to, speak to you soon.
Yeah. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. This is the first of what will hopefully be many Reelfoot deep dive interviews. There are 20 players, 19 left, and one of me. So these will gradually to happen over time, but never fear, I will get to everyone. Next up will be Melanie. I will be speaking to Melanie this Thursday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'll check that and have that posted soon. So get excited for that. And next week, at the very minimum, I will be talking to Maddie, the winner of the season. It will be a early morning if you're here in the United States, and a late evening if you're in Australia. So that will be a fun one.
Yeah, and quick question: if I'm missing Melanie's, you can go back after and watch it on Facebook Live or on the podcast, right?
All these interviews are available on Facebook. They're up on YouTube as well, on the Live Reality Games channel, as well as any podcast app you want. So the audio file will be there for the Live Reality Games podcast. So you can listen to this interview in many ways, shape, and forms, as well as all the future ones.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. Have a great night.
Thank you so much, Debbie, and thank you everyone for tuning in, and see you all later.